is Liz from Lohas Fabric and Lohas Canada, and I want to do a video of my first setup for my first market. So I make eco-friendly products, and this is end of September right now. My first market is going to be mid-November unless I get into an earlier show, which would be at the beginning of November. So I have roughly a month and a half to get everything organized. Right now I do not sell online, so this will be like my first market, and I haven't decided whether or not I will do it online or just focus more on markets. So this will be an evolution of that, and I'll keep filming up until my market day so you can see the progress and see all the steps behind it. So far what I have done is I have purchased material, and that's taken me such a long time to actually find all the different materials that come together. I also just got my shipment of Wonderful. This is confetti fabric. It does come with this plastic coating on it, so to protect it when it gets shipped, but it is 100% cotton. Now I also have signed up for Square so I can take credit card payments at the market. So it does take a couple of business days for you to set it up, just because they deposit a small amount into your bank account. So I wanted to make sure I did that early, and also got the card reader. Found these really cute chalkboard ones that have clothespins on them, so I found a big bag for $4. So I'm a big fan of thrift stores, so I picked this up the last week, I think, at the thrift store. Alright, it is the last day of September. I just went to the thrift store. I got this a little while ago. I've been trying to look for like a workhorse sewing machine just so that I don't run out my other sewing machine. So this is what it looks like. It's very pretty, and I've researched online. It's a Japanese made, it does say it on there. It's called a class 15. The thing is, it is skipping stitches, so I'm just going to take it to my friend. It's like from the 1950s. It runs beautifully. Otherwise, this just does a straight stitch, so my other one does other things and I don't want to run it out. Hi guys, it is October 1st, so I am feeling the crunch. I just got back from the eye doctor, and I just got my sewing machine and my serger back, and so I've been playing with those. So last night I was able to get onto a stamp site that I liked and purchased a stamp for my business card. So she's going to be sending me proofs of that in a couple days, and then having that made and mailed out. So it is going to take some time, so I'm glad I'm doing it now, so I'm not feeling really rushed to do it in the last couple weeks, because it just goes by so fast. So I can't believe it's already October 1st, so I have a month and a half before my first craft fair. Okay, so it's October the 6th today. It's been a couple days since I filmed, but I've been super busy working full time, and then also trying to do macrame in the morning before I go to work, and then when I come back from work I've been doing some bulk sewing, so I end up just doing one thing at a time. So I take a pattern, cut all the pieces one night, the next night I'll iron them, the next night after that I'll sew them. If I really get hung up on something and actually need my brain power, then I kind of save it until the end of the week when I have a day off like today. I did some patterns yesterday, some templates, so I was figuring that out and figuring out how to sew them more effectively. So while I'm macraming and while I'm sewing, I do listen to YouTube and I do listen to podcasts. The other one I was listening to was a lady talking about a 6-month plan before your first craft fair, and I do not have that. I do not have a 6-month plan. I'm just kind of going with my instincts on this. This isn't my first business, so I feel like with all the businesses that I've had before, it's brought me to this point, and collectively all that information is going to be put into this business. So, but I ended up finding this at the thrift store as well, and I got it for $35, and Oops, I have it backwards. Alright, so the thing about these, they are heavy, but they're so beautiful. This one's made in Japan. It's smaller than the other one that I have, and that I'm using, but it's exactly the same setup and the same model, which I found was a class 15. So it is smaller in this distance for sure, but I was thinking, because I'm using different materials and different tensions and different things like that and stitch lengths, I could have this one set up for something to do more heavier or more lighter depending on what my project is. And a lot of times my friend was saying you kind of want to have these like more in a permanent space, just because you don't want to have you don't want the clasps to break or anything. I mean, they are old machines. They're like, I don't know, from the 50s or 60s, and it has this really nice like silk embroidery and normal. I don't think I can get it to focus, but okay, so it's October the 8th. I just opened my email this morning and I got into a craft fair for November, the beginning of November. I think it's November 3rd and 4th, so it's a 2-day market. It's at a music festival though. It's awesome. So it's an indoor market and they supply a 6-foot table. So I have less than a month to figure out my display, get enough inventory. So these are all the different types of props that I'm going to be using for my display. The problem is they are all different colors, so I'm just going to make it really easy. And I picked up this today. It is chalkboard paint. It's by Home Hardware, but I just realized, so I went there and they also had regular chalk paint, so just having a look, I almost bought the wrong kind because it does say chalk paint, so it does make it look like it is chalk, but you can't write on it. So I almost bought the wrong one. And also these directions, I'm not too sure if it's for everybody. I don't know if you can see it. It's made in Canada. It's why I bought it. But also it does take 3 days. So 3 days, then you rub chalk on the surface, and then you have to wait another 4 days. So 7 days altogether. So I'm really glad this is October, I think 22nd today. So I'm glad I'm doing this. I still have like 2 weeks left before my craft fair, and I'm so glad I'm not leaving this to the last minute. So the first coat is on. It was recommended to do 2 coats. It's so dark, and I hate painting wood because I love the natural grain. But I want my product to show, not the pieces of wood. The lady at the hardware store also said that like this one was a very much darker color of wood, so it was a different grain, so the tannins are going to come through in the oil. So she recommended I'll probably have to do a couple more coats off of that. It does look very streaky, though I don't notice when they dry they're not as streaky. Like that one's already dry. So this is how much I used. I don't know if you can see that. It's 946 milliliters total. Now I only used maybe like an inch. So for the first coat, so it really depends how much. I didn't do the spray one. They did have an aerosol can spray, just because of the cost factors. I didn't know how much it was going to use. I didn't know how much I was going to have to make. The aerosol can was I think $11 for like 375 milliliters, where this one was 900 something milliliters for I think $23 or something. So just cost wise, it was more effective if I needed to paint more, which I didn't know how much I was going to need anyhow. So I hit it with a second coat of paint. I'm going to have to leave it to dry. The sun has gone down. I'll leave it to dry for about an hour and then put it inside. I'll probably have to do another additional day. Don't know how many coats that I'll be able to put on or have to put on, but I will keep you posted. So for this is coat number 2. Alright, it is Monday. Here is all the chalkboard paint. They're all dry, and I'm really happy with the way that they turned out. I only did the 2 coats. I didn't do a 3rd or 4th one. I should have, probably for these ones, because they have little, I don't know if they're chips that came off or flaked off, but I'm just going to hide them by the product because I am just running out of time. I would need to wait another 3 days after I paint them, and today's Monday, and my fair is on Saturday. So it's a nice day out today, so I'm going to chalk them, and then I have to wait 3 days after I chalk them, kind of like I was a primer. Okay, so they're chalked. I don't really know how much chalk to put on, so this is just like, I just went over it once for this one, but then if I went over twice for this one. So I have to let these sit for 3 days and then I can wipe them off. I did this one twice, but you can see like that's just once. So I really don't know. Got a huge thing of chalk. I really don't know how much I'm supposed to, like, am I supposed to go over it again or is it supposed to be okay? And so this one, when I was doing the chalk, these 3 are set. There's another one, but when I started doing the chalk, more of the flakes came off from the chalkboard paint. So I think what it is these ones were really nice. They were, I think, had a finish on them, and that's why even when I was putting chalk on, some of it was flaking off a bit. So I think I probably should have sanded these ones. So we'll see how it looks out. I'll have to maybe do some product placement or something like that and then repaint them. It's going to be a little bit tricky because we're heading now into November, so it's going to be a lot colder, and we'll have to see how I can swing it with and making sure that they're dry. So I'm wiping off the chalk on the boards and it's coming off really well, though I'm noticing as well it's turning it black a bit, so I'm not too sure if it's just a bunch of, it's some of the paint coming off. When I wiped these ones down, it took off some of the paint, so I should have sanded it. So lesson learned on that one. I'm gonna have to run this one under the water just because, and I'll have to give these ones a couple more wipes. And today is Friday, I forgot to mention that. It is market day tomorrow, so that's why I'm doing everything today. So it was way easier just to wash them underneath the sink with some water and the cloth than to try to do it with the cloth and a bit of water, just because it was getting so chalky everywhere because there's so much chalk and everything. So everything's just drying now, and then I'll set up the table. Some of the things that I am bringing. I have 2 clipboards, one smaller, one's larger. This one's for email addresses and for the newsletter, just so I probably won't do it this year, but I can collect all the email addresses and then next year do newsletters or maybe do a really quick one of all the fairs that I'm going to. So I just want to have that and I can just forget about it and put it on the table. My friends suggested that if people wanted to have orders for something, I say if I run out of something or they want a certain color, then I can take orders for that. So if I don't use this and nobody wants orders because, you know, it's the first market and stuff, then I can just take notes, what worked well, what didn't work well. This is a music festival I'm going to, so it's going to be completely different than other festivals like the Christmas season festival. So this is a utility box that I got at the thrift store. So some pens, and then I'll put that on the table if people just want their newsletter. Fisherman's Friends, which is like, usually use them when you're sick, but I really like this honey mint kind. And another mint, just because if it gets busy or if I have a little lull time but I don't want to eat something, then I can use the mints. Got money for my float. I got tape just in case. Toonies, so my change jars. These are going to be my business card type things, so they're just blanks and then people can stamp on them. And I got calculator, my stamp pad, I got my Squarespace, some chalkboard pens, permanent marker pens, some clips just in case, and a little notebook, a receipt book. I found this cash book at the dollar store. I wouldn't use it for individual items, but I'm going to use it to keep track of all my craft fairs, the total sum, so I can figure out how much I'm making per, and I can reflect on that. I also just forgot what I'm going to have to make is an inventory checklist. So I'll use one of the other books to make an inventory checklist, and I'll have all my inventory, count it before I go, and then once I'm done at home, then I can recount it and then see how much is sold and what items have sold. It's just way easier than trying to write down every individual item. So this is obviously a really rough run through for me. I don't have a table that's 6 feet, so the width, I just looked online, I think is 30 inches by 6 feet. So my table's quite a lot larger, so I just put, this is the end of the table is where the measuring stick is. So, and I don't have all my product out here. I just want to have a quick run through and not bring everything out. But I think this is how it's going to go, unless it also depends on what direction people come in. So if they're coming in this direction, I'll set it up this way. If they're coming in the opposite direction, I'll flip it around, just because like I'll have these silk scrunchies here, the linen scrunchies, the macrame bags. I do want to try to in the future have this standing up somehow so people can see it from afar. I'll probably need some sort of table clamp, but not for this market. Here's some produce bags so I can fill this up. I'll put the makeup wipes in here, and I'm just gonna leave them loose. And then the unpaper towel rolls, I don't have a lot of them, so I'm just probably gonna wind them up and then just kind of stand them up and put their own clip on them. And then we have the reusable tea bags. We have the bamboo face cloth, bamboo cotton face cloth. The bento bag, so I'll put its own little clip on it. So it's made with hemp and cotton. I got these little stamps. What I'm gonna do for the next market, I don't think it's super critical for this market because it's a music festival, but for the next market it's more of a festive holiday buying Christmas gifts mentality, so they probably want something that does have the information on it. I'll also put, I have to get my stamp, but that's in the box. Put my stamp and the ink pad in here with the little cards, and then I'll put some stamped pieces of paper with my business cards around the table as well. As a sign, I will get, I have a permanent marker, and I'm gonna do a stencil, and I'll put my business logo on there, business name. And I might put eco-friendly products. I'm not 100% sure, and have my business name a little bit smaller. It's nice to have your business name on there, but I would like to feature a bit more that they're eco-friendly products. Good morning. It is market day. I only got a couple hours of sleep last night and then for the last couple days, so I'm a little bit tired, but I'm still really energized. I did my inventory list early this morning and I realized that I have more samples of everything than just one big main thing, which is fine to sell an experiment, so the next one will be different. But I am in Cumberland. I'm gonna be setting up pretty quickly, and it starts at 10 o'clock. I think it's just before 8 right now. It's about a 45-minute drive, so I was able to pack up everything and kind of look over everything. And yeah, I'm excited. It's also a music festival, so I think the whole town will be buzzing. It started last night, and my friend Elise was here, and she's going to be playing a set today. Won't be able to see it because it's during the market time and it's somewhere else. So I'm gonna go set up the market and I'll take a bit more footage inside. So I wasn't able to make the paper towel rolls and the linen bread bags. I needed to do more research on the linen bread bags just because I really wanted it to be a nice clean finish. Okay. So this is where the market is. That's the museum on the right, but that building there is where the market is. So I was just chatting with a lady who works at the museum. She was talking about people coming in, they would learn about the history and then sing something about it.
Awesome, we got it.
So I thought I'd check in and give a little recap of how yesterday went. This is not my bedroom, I'm staying in an Airbnb, and it's been lovely. Chef Katie has made me breakfast and left it in the fridge, so that was really nice to wake up to. I reset my table quite a few times just because of the flow of traffic was coming in one way compared to the other. I had all my macrame bags laying out on the table. I had them kind of in a pile and people were coming in around and touching them, but they weren't actually picking it up. So I kind of stripped it away and just put 3 on the table. People still weren't picking them up, kind of like they were afraid to touch it, because I forgot how much much of a spiel you need. I basically had to explain everything that was on the table. So even like they knew what produce bags was because it's kind of getting a little bit more mainstream, but the things like the bamboo, cotton face cloths, I actually got them to feel and touch it. I kind of explained everything on the table, so I was like, and even the reusable tea bags, because I've never seen that before, I had to be like, they knew what a tea bag was, but not a reusable one, so I actually had to show them. And they're like, oh, that's such a great idea, and then we could bond over that. So the scrunchie sold really well. I only had 2 colors and 2 different sizes, a small and a large ones. I sold one silk scrunchie, her all the benefits, and then she's like, I'm gonna like level up and like get a silk scrunchie. And I was like, yeah, okay. You know, like these are investment pieces, and I kind of forgot about that, where I need to showcase that more. The bento bags sold really well. I'm gonna have to make probably a larger size, because people were like, oh, my lunch is a little bit like too big for this bento bag, but I have like so many other uses. Yeah, I sold a bunch of those in green. I had 2 colors, green and this like rust color, rusty red. So the green sold out, and people were looking at the red now, obviously, because that's all I had. Produce bags sold well, really well. A lot of men bought those, and a lot of men bought the tea bags. Produce bags, the large and the medium sold well. I think I only had 1 medium left. And then the small, not as much. I think people couldn't think of what they were going to do with it, and they rather just get a large, so then they could just not have to worry about small little things. Forget how good it is. Since we had that connection of the journey of reducing our waste, you know, they ended up buying something. So I used my square maybe about 5 times, and I probably wouldn't have got the sale if I didn't have the square. So it was very beneficial. I just have the little chip that you plug into your phone. I do see now people have more of the square thing that you can just tap, and it just wirely connects to your phone so that you don't have to slide the card through. I did have 1 card, and it was a really heavy card, and it wouldn't read. She gave me another card, so it was fine, but it wouldn't read through the sliding one. And one of the other vendors did say that the square, the box type thing, can also take debit. She hasn't tried it. That might be something, because then people can pay with debit too. So this is the lovely breakfast that I'm gonna eat. I ate some of it last night. It was even prettier last night. Yeah, so I'm gonna make some tea, and then I'll head off to the market. How are you? I'm good, how are you? So I'm back at home now. Yesterday was day 2 of the market. It was a really good day yesterday. I expected it to be a bit slower, but it was a little bit drizzly outside. It was a little bit cold outside, so people were coming into the market. I think because it was also the last day of the festival, so people were kind of winding down. There was definitely a different crowd that came in. We also had daylight savings, so right when it opened at 11 o'clock, it was busy. So the things that sold well for me were the produce bags yesterday. The scrunchies, I only had 2 left by the end. I sold some more silk scrunchies. The makeup wipes sold a lot better yesterday than the first day. You know, on Saturday they still had the big night, and so people weren't really quite in the shopping mode, but then this Sunday everything was winding down. They were going to go home, so they were just in a different mood. I still use Square. I probably only used it maybe once or twice though on the second day. A lot more on the first day, but on the second day, just because there was ATMs everywhere in the city, it was definitely worth getting it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had any cash. I ate all my mints. There's tons of the music because there's different musicians, what they were playing, and sometimes it was really loud to the point where, you know, when you're at a bar or something and you're kind of like almost like screaming in the person's ear to tell them something, and then the music would quiet down again. So, but we just had pockets where you're that close to the customer and you're trying to convey, you know, what's on the table. It's not ideal when it happens like that because you're trying to sell your product at this market, not necessarily have the music be at the main focus. But you know, the music gets adjusted, the volume gets adjusted, and you just kind of have to roll with it. So some people I know did find the prices a little bit high, but those aren't my customers. My customers are the ones who were buying, who could realize the potential of shopping local, that I made everything by hand, that I was, you know, it's not coming in from overseas where they don't know what the labor standards are for those pieces that they're going to be buying. So those are my customers who want to buy local, want to shop local. So the business card stamp idea worked really well. They really liked that it was a stamp. Some people are also on the eco-friendly journey. So I think I had like 10 produce bags that already had string on them on the table, and then the rest I just ended up stringing while I was there, and I was able to get them all done because it took a while, but it was just really great because then I could pair that up with the slow times, and it was helping my business, and I wasn't doing it and wasn't cutting into my sewing time. So having something to do for your business while you're there is the most ideal thing. Now, it doesn't look great if you're just sitting at the table waiting for customers to come in. If you're kind of looking semi-busy, it doesn't even have to be anything really real, but you're maybe just adjusting your table. All I was doing was putting the string through the bag and then tying it up. Next one, string through the bag, tying it up. So it just looked like I was still productive, that I had stuff going on at my table even if nobody was there to talk to. So the table setup, as I mentioned, I rearranged it quite a few times on the first day. The second day I did as well. I pulled things back. I gave them a little bit more breathing room. I rearranged some stuff. I put some ties around, some macrame cord around some of the things. So when I did a bundle, you can buy them individually or a bundle, say the tea bags or the makeup pads. And then people felt a little bit more comfortable grabbing bundles of 3 rather than individual 3. It's just totally psychological on that. So I was able to sell a lot more of the 3 ones once I had them in bundles, and I did all the bundles there at my table. I wouldn't do it extra. Really well is I had different price points on my table. People are not in the Christmas shopping mood yet, so my price points ranged from $6 all the way up to $45. So having that price range really gave it flexibility of what people wanted to spend. Tables are meant for sitting and people are leaning over, so even if I write on the chalkboard paint, it's got to be above, or it's got to be, the boxes have to be eye level so that they can see and read it, not just be like bending down to try to read what it is. So my friend also suggested maybe having a little chalkboard sign and you write all your product on it with the price points, and you can just have it on the side, and so people who walk by, they can see it in full, but then also have the individual prices on there. So it just looks a little bit more cohesive. So I did get some newsletter sign-ups, so I was really glad to have that sheet. And how do I hear about you more? Then I'd be like, oh, I have a newsletter, you can take my business card. I was showcasing the tea bags. So I would tell them all the different products and what it is. And then with the tea bags, I'd be like, oh yeah, and I have these reusable tea bags. And they're like, most people were like, oh, that's a really good idea. I was like, yeah, you know, like I was finding these single-use tea bags still in my garden and in my compost. And so I decided to make these because I was like, this is ridiculous. It's like 2-year compost, so why isn't it breaking down? So that really started a dialogue with people, having that story. And so people were telling me, this one lady told me she had 6-year compost at the very bottom of the pile and she still had tea bags that aren't breaking down. And there was this another lady who was telling me that she actually emailed one of the tea companies and they were saying, oh, it has to have an eco-friendly symbol on it, and those will break down at really high heat, but not your home compost, so it has to go to a facility. So, but only with the ones with the eco symbol on it. Because they were getting reports now of like the other tea bags that have some sort of microplastic in it mixed with cotton. So just getting people aware, having that conversation, people were telling me information too, which was really great, that I could like share and pass on with other people. And then people were putting in their input too of stuff they've never even thought about. So, oh, and then scrunchies are back and they're trending, and that usually got people a laugh because, you know, scrunchies are from like the 80s and the 90s, and so they're like, oh, like everything's coming back into style, you know. So it was just good to have those little key things that I could connect with them, but also being able to make them laugh or make them smile. So it was really good, and I think that helped with a lot of rapport and getting them to, some people like just to buy your stuff because they like you, right? Like they want to help support you and they like what you do, so they end up buying your stuff. So that's another huge thing. They might not necessarily want it or really need it, but because they like you and what you're doing and what it stands for, they'll also end up buying off you. Other people who are selling product there, and you're able to talk so much about what other markets are people doing, what works for them, and just be able to bounce ideas off each other was really awesome about different techniques that they use that might work for your business too. So if you have your first market coming up, what are your questions or concerns? I hope some of this addressed it in your own market, or if you've been doing markets for a long time, what advice do you have? My next market is in 2 weeks, so I already have some product made so I can continue to make. I need to finish those linen bread bags. I need to finish the unpaper towel rolls, continue to make videos on the next journey of this 2 weeks before my next market, and you can see and follow me as I go through that.